I've been asked to make a video on my views of the subject of Palestine, and I do have views, I do have opinions. I'm known for my, shall we say, crackpot opinions on many things, and I think that this one is probably going to be seen as the most eccentric opinion of them all, simply for its absurd degree of idealism, but there you are. This is my opinion. I start off from the position that neither side, either in Israel or in Palestine, has any legitimate claims to an inch to the other side's territory, period. Israel has a right to exist. Palestine has a right to exist. That goes without saying. There's no excuse, no moral justification whatsoever for anyone occupying or seeking to occupy or drive people out of an inch of its land. In particular, I'm referring to all those militant Islamic groups that say that Israel doesn't even have the right to exist. There are those who even say that it doesn't exist. It's a Zionist entity, I think, and that's absurd. That's a thoroughly insane position to take because it's utterly unrealistic. Secondly, I don't believe that Israel has the right to occupy or plant settlements on an inch of Palestinian land. There is no moral justification for that whatsoever. When people say that, or when some people say that they need it for Israel's security, I simply don't believe them. However, these are the realities that we have to deal with. There are people on both sides that do not recognize the legitimacy of the existence or the existence itself of the other side, and that's what we've got to deal with in Palestine. Well, here's my solution as to what should happen, and this will solve everything, although it's never going to happen. First of all, I think that Israel should be admitted to NATO. That would give Israel security for all times. If, say, a Spanish or a Polish armored brigade were stationed in Israel, perhaps both, one in the north, one in the south, Israel would pretty much be guaranteed security for all times. It would be far more secure than simply occupying strategic points in the West Bank or essentially having the ability to occupy Gaza whenever they feel like it. Being part of NATO means that an attack on one member is an attack on them all, and then suddenly you've got to deal with everybody, including the United States and such semi-superpowers as Great Britain and France. That would make sure that Israel is then secure. And not only that, I think Israel should be allowed to join the European Union, or encouraged to do so, more as a psychological tie to Europe. And the reason I say that is, Israel is the West. Israel is not westernized. Israel is the West. It belongs, if you ask me, in the EU. And I believe that the ties with the EU, coupled with the ties to NATO, will send an unequivocal message to anyone who thinks that they're going to destroy Israel, that that is simply never going to be allowed to happen, period. Now, this actually, if you ask me, it would be a positive benefit to the Palestinians, because what it would do is it would remove the argument that says that Israel needs to occupy pieces of the West Bank for its own security. There would be no longer any need for security-based arguments. They would now be under the umbrella of NATO, and there's no more fears for Israel's security. To the point where, as I say, Israel would be a frontline state in NATO with possible hostile neighbors, and there would be a good reason to station foreign or NATO soldiers, powerful contingents in Israel. Guaranteed security. No more justification for occupying an inch of Palestinian land in the name of Israel's survival. Now, that really kind of takes the wind out of both sides, simply because Israel would no longer have, as I say, the logical or moral, possibly, justification for occupying pieces of Palestinian land. And it would also deflate anyone who's holding up the rather mad hope that Israel is one day going to be destroyed. That's not going to happen. So Hezbollah and all the various groups that say that Israel doesn't have the right to exist would be pretty much seen as mad idealists at the very best, who have ideas that are completely unrealistic and just seem to be troublemakers, much the way that the more militant Republican and loyalist organizations came to be seen in Northern Ireland over a period of time. They're just fighting a fight that cannot be won. And so people would drift away from them. Now, the reason why I say that this will never happen is the fact that there are too many people with vested interests in keeping the conflict going. Yes, in using the Palestinians as pawns. The top two offenders in this, if you ask me, are the governments of Iran and Syria. It's just far too convenient for these people for this struggle to continue to go on. That way they can paint themselves as the saviors or the guarantors or the patrons of the Palestinian people in a terrible oppressive situation, and that they are the only ones who are showing the willingness to actually stand up to Israel in its maltreatment of the Palestinians. Now, in order for them to continue to paint themselves in this light, there has to be continued oppression of the Palestinians. So they need this conflict to continue. They need the Palestinians to continue to be oppressed. Otherwise, there's no conflict for them to show themselves to be the champions in. They can no longer say we're standing up for the downtrodden Palestinians if the Palestinians aren't downtrodden anymore. Yes, I do believe that politics does get that cynical. Having said that, it's not just on the Palestinian side or their allies where this kind of nasty, duplicitous, cynical politics takes place. The American hard right or the Western hard right needs the Palestinians or the whoever to continue to apply pressure to Israel, because it's important for them to continue to paint themselves as the only people who are willing to be harsh and hard line when standing up to militant Islamic terrorism. If Israel suddenly finds itself in a position of guaranteed security, suddenly they can't say that they're the only ones who are willing to go out on a limb to actually help Israel and guarantee Israel's existence. NATO will have seen to that. So they don't want really this conflict to end. They want Israel to continue to exist in at least a psychological state of siege, so they can say, see, when things get tough, we're on your side, Israel. Secondly, the Israeli hard right does not want this conflict to end. They want it to continue because as long as there is conflict, they can continue to paint themselves as people who might not be exactly liked by the Israeli population at large, but who at least are the ones who are willing to stick their necks out and fight hard and put their lives on the line to protect Israel. I know I've met a lot of Israelis when I travel, and none of them have anything good to say about the people who actually want to plant settlements and live in them in the Palestinian territories. But Israel has shown a reluctance to get harsh with these people simply because it's like in so many cases when you believe that you're under siege, you can't be too picky about who your friends are. These people won't panic if and when Israel ends up in a fight for its life. So these people, the Israeli hardline, the Israeli hard right wing, the irredentists, the secular nationalists as well as the religious ones, need this conflict to continue. As long as there's conflict, they can paint themselves as harsh and perhaps unpleasant guarantors of Israel's security, but guarantors nonetheless. So that's why I think that my solution, while it would work, would simply not ever happen, simply because there are too many people around the world who want the Palestinians to continue to live under pressure, who want Israel to continue to feel as though it's under pressure. That way, neither side has any powerful inclination to come to the peace table, to the negotiation table. The biggest losers in all of this are, unfortunately, the Palestinians themselves. There's a lot of people out there that I feel sorry for, but very few people elicit as much pity in me as the Palestinians, because not only are they living under extreme pressure, but even their allies seem to want to use them and to maintain a situation where they remain under pressure. By the same token, again, The average Israeli who simply wants to live his life is living in a state of pressure, under pressure. And he is, in many ways, a pawn for the other side. But as I say, it's possible to live a reasonably normal life in Israel. I can't imagine anything close to normalcy in Palestine. That's my view of the issue, for what it's worth. Thank you.